Korea. Most of these hills look alike, and each one of the hills has been paid for in blood.
From the pioneering broadcasts of Edward R. Murrow to the live satellite feeds of modern day, thousands of TV reporters have put their lives on the line to get their stories on the air. Their careers are the stuff of legend, courting danger, dodging bullets, interpreting history. They follow their instincts. They infiltrate enemy lines. They travel the planet, searching for that needle in the haystack. At their best, their insight is like lightning over the landscape, helping us to decipher the details in the darkness. The events of our time have played out around them, and these are their stories.
And America won.
I wondered if I was going to be able to go on.
The recording of grief that we do so intimately.
That night we were bombed.
You have got to ask that hard question.
I'm not there as judge. I'm there to get information.
I should be better at cutting through the crap.
They were keeping things from us. You could smell it.
In some ways, on some days, danger is your business.
In a war, one moment you're alive and the next you're dead.
People are saying, excuse me, to get around you so that they can kill the guy in back of you.
I got on a plane, got out of there quick.
Journalists are increasingly becoming targets.
I got a slice through my arm and shrapnel in my back.
It was almost insane what I did that day.
I was shocked by what I saw.
This is what you spent all of your life preparing for.
I guess we made the evening news tonight.
Christiana Manpour.
Walter Cronkite.
Leslie Stahl. Barbara Walters.
Bernard Shaw.
Bob Simon, Dan Rather,
Don Hewitt.
Deb Bradley,
Steve Croft, John Hockenberry,
John Alpert.
Dwight Wallace.
Morley Safer.
Ted Koppel,
Peter Jennings. Tom Brokaw.
Sam Donaldson.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown.
November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. In what has become the most talked about news event in television history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy lures the American public into a 4-day trance-like vigil around their TV sets. CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite delivers a beat-by-beat report throughout the weekend.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
When that word came up to me from Dallas, and I had to say the words, I found I choked up a bit. Fortunately, I didn't fall apart. I stifled the problem, but it was there. And there was a second two there where I wondered if I was going to be able to go on.
Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
When a story breaks, we've got a job to do. And we have an automatic reaction in getting that job done. That's the way we are. And the primary drive is to get the story and get it right and get it on the air.
Up there on the 4th or 5th floor, perhaps out of one of those open windows, is where the assassin of President Kennedy is believed to have fired the fatal shots.
Television news came of age in the 4 dark days in Dallas.
Considerable confusion in the immediate vicinity. Right there was the spot where the president was shot.
There's always a rush when there's breaking news. But experience teaches there's also a danger of getting it wrong the first time. Because any reporter of even minimal experience understands that very often the first things you hear are wrong.
March 30th, 1981, Washington. Amidst a hail of gunfire and bloodshed, President Ronald Reagan is rushed away in his limousine. On the ground lay several wounded bodies. In the air floats speculation and confusion. ABC White House correspondent Sam Donaldson is there.
I stood 5 feet away from John Hinckley when he shot the President of the United States and 3 other people. We thought the President had not been hit. The President thought he had not been hit. The officials at the White House, who knew that shots had been fired at Ronald Reagan and thought the limousine was on the way back to the White House, thought he had not been hit and said to reporters that. So I went back to the studio and was sitting there with our anchorman, Frank Reynolds, when suddenly the word came that the president had been taken to the hospital.
The president was not wounded. He was wounded. My God.
Well, I mean, talk about misreporting the story.
Speak up. The president was hit. My God, the president was hit.
Mrs. Reagan was rushed to the hospital. Doctors told her the president's condition was good.
Leslie Stahl is also covering the president that day as the White House correspondent for CBS.
The day Reagan got shot was one of my worst days ever as a reporter. I was quite agitated because I felt they weren't telling us the truth. I felt that they were keeping things from us. You could smell it. You could touch it. And they were.
At 2:30, a White House advance man on the scene, and then minutes later, a spokesman here said the president was not shot, that he'd been whisked off safely.
When a story breaks, you don't know how it's going to come out. You don't know all the facts. Something happens right in front of you, and you can't wait until you know everything. Sometimes it would literally take months before you would be able to give your final report. So you have to report, particularly something like the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, immediately. That was quite a day, though. It was perhaps, when you speak of breaking news, the worst thing I've ever lived through and seen or been a part of reporting, because we made a lot of mistakes that day.
I think during a time of some national tragedy, the anchorman takes on another role, I suppose, and that's by reporting the news factually. You also become a kind of a healer. You tell people what they need to know in a swift and comforting fashion, I hope.
Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
Roger, go with throttle up.
January 28th, 1986, Cape Canaveral, Florida. Live on national television, the space shuttle Challenger explodes and tumbles back to Earth, killing all 7 passengers on board. America is paralyzed with grief. NBC anchor Tom Brokaw is live.
It was a tremendous loss, a blow so cruel, so unexpected, we're still trying to deal with it.
The shuttle was a difficult story for me. When the Challenger went up, I was at the White House getting a briefing on the State of the Union address, and I raced out to our facilities on Nebraska Avenue in Washington. And about halfway there, I realized that I had a friend on board, Judith Resnick. I had known Judith because she had been my expert commentator on earlier shuttle launches, and I had an enormous affection for her. She was this very skilled woman who was going where very few women had ever gone before. She was totally dedicated to the program. It was her whole life. And so all that day long, as I was reporting on the shuttle, I had Judith in mind, and I finally decided I had to just share that with the audience.
Judy Resnick, PhD in electrical engineering. She was a friend of mine. I do not hesitate to tell you. I met her on the launch of the first shuttle when she was our mission expert commentator. We maintained a kidding relationship over the years.
I do think that in my first 10 years as an anchorman, I almost never got involved in some kind of commentary or personal observation. After a time, I felt that I'd earned it. There are personal times, like the Shuttle Challenger and Judy Resnick, when that came into play, in which I felt I could say something. I know this all sounds very self-serving, but at some point, you do have to have confidence in yourself to go out in front of a national television audience and take them through a story that's going to change their world in some fashion.
Tonight in this city, on both sides of that wall, you can feel the power of a people's revolution. Really feel it. The idea of freedom is as powerful here now as it is anywhere.
The Berlin Wall, for me, a reminder of so many things. Like for so many people, of course, it's the ultimate symbol of the division between democracy and communism. And I'd gone to Berlin first in the summer of 1962 when the wall was not fully completed. And then, like thousands of other people, I was there when it actually came down, and it was an astonishing reminder of the passage of time.
Happy.
And it really was like dominoes. You know, Poland went, then Hungary went, and what was then Czechoslovakia went, and then you just knew East Germany was going to go. And then it happened in no time.
For the first time since 1961, they made a hole in the Berlin Wall.
That sudden, symbolic end to the competition between communism and democracy. In retrospect, we'd all known this coming. It was just a matter of time. I remember standing on the wall the night this was all happening, and we did our broadcasts live from there, and so did my competitor. And we went to commercial, and I was just sort of standing there waiting to start the new segment, and some guy yelled at me, "Hey, Pete!" And I turned around, he threw up a piece of the wall to me. He said, "Keep this." I said, "I've got 2 children." He threw me up another piece.
Someone actually reached up and handed me a small piece of the wall that they had chipped away. It's those small moments that make up this extraordinary day.
And I brought home and had mounted for my children the 2 pieces of the Berlin Wall so that they would always have some recollection of their dad having been there at that historic moment.
Coming up.
We're not just telling the story, we're also pissing people off.
If I had not moved, I would have been dead.
This was probably the closest and most intense combat that we'd ever been in the middle of.
If I had known how dangerous it was going to be, we might not have gone. We did know it was going to be dangerous.
Breaking the News will continue. You're watching Breaking the News.
There's another launch.
I think the people who end up in war zones want to be there. There are very few people that get sent there against their wishes. They're there because they think it's a good way to advance their career. They think it'll make a chapter in their book someday. And it is romantic. There is something exciting about getting into danger and escaping.
March 1982. CBS correspondent Steve Croft volunteers to cover the Civil War in El Salvador. It's an assignment that puts him in the middle of mayhem.
There are no fixed battle lines or fronts here. A short while ago, this street was controlled by the army, and you could move down it, but not anymore.
We had a large presence in El Salvador. I was the youngest person. They sent me out election day to a place where they thought that they would get bang bang.
The center of town is teeming with guerrilla snipers.
The safest place to be in El Salvador is in the middle of a firefight. They're the worst shots in the world. They fire a lot of bullets, but they never hit anybody. You should be worried about the death squads who might take you out and shoot you because you're a journalist. But that's not to say you can't get hit by a stray bullet. Fighting started at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there had been a lull. And we had seen this National Guardsman who had been kind of hanging around the hotel all day, and we wanted to do an interview with him. And we moved him down towards the end of the veranda, and he was talking about how this sniper had been chasing him around all day. The sniper tried to finish him off while he was doing the interview with us. When we were scrambling up on the veranda, the first thing I said was, well, I guess we made the evening news tonight.
When battles are happening, people are shooting, the natural tendency is to run the other way, and we had to run towards the battles in order to be able to film these things.
Nicaragua, 1983. Determined to get as close as possible to the Sandinistas' battle with the Contras, John Alpert shoots his own footage, placing himself in the center of the danger zone.
This is the mortero.
I'd actually never seen a mortar being fired before, but they began putting the little bombs in the mortar, and they're shooting them off, mortar number 1, mortar number 2. But all of a sudden I could see that he had flipped around the mortar and he was putting it in backwards.
It's upside down!
We all screamed and dove off the side of a cliff. They thought this was funny. We were scared to death because we thought that we were going to wind up in smithereens.
You made a mistake.
I don't really know that much about guns. And I've developed I hate guns. But we spent almost 15 years being real close to guns and real close to cameras. I wanted actually one day to film a battle so close up that nobody would ever again question that we were right there with our cameras. And I did that in the Philippines. We were up there with a group of rebels that were sort of like the Keystone Cops of guerrilla warfare. I mean, these guys were so inept. You look back, it's funny, but they'd go out, we'd be in a boat, the boat would have holes in it, we're sinking, I'm holding my camera up over my head trying to keep the camera from drowning. They forgot their guns when they went out into a battle. I thought we were going to get killed. One day they said to me, we're going to transfer you to the fighting brigade. These guys were the meaner, nastier looking fighters. They had a very cold look in their eyes, and they announced that they were going to ambush a military convoy the next day. Even today, when I think about that footage, I get flashbacks because it was almost insane what I did that day. Well, we were probably 20 or 30 feet away from the incoming fire and hiding behind trees trying to film what was going on. This was probably the closest and most intense combat that we'd ever been in the middle of. Two of the guerrillas died, and 14 government soldiers died in that battle.
Go, 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 go! Go, 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 hey! Coming, right? Go, go!
What was our responsibility as human beings? Was there any way that we could have prevented the 14 soldiers who were killed from getting ambushed? Did we have the responsibility to race out on the road just before the shooting started and warn people? It's ridiculous. There's no phone booths in the jungle, and that's not the responsibility of reporters. We went there only because that's where we had to go in order to get the story. And when we got the story, we were thrilled to death to get out. This is a real dangerous job if you do it right. It's a real dangerous job.
Okay, there's another launch. There's another launch. There's another launch.
There's a saying among journalists, where there's war, there's Amanpour. During her 10 years covering conflicts for CNN, Christiane Amanpour's assignments continually place her in the line of fire.
When I first started out, I felt that wearing several kilos of protective gear, and believe me, it's heavy, not only limited my physical ability to run away or to duck and cover, but also psychologically gave me a bunker mentality. And I also didn't want to look like a military person. I've changed my opinion somewhat in that I feel it's not responsible anymore to be cavalier about personal safety in situations where journalists are increasingly becoming targets. In the kinds of wars that we're seeing increasingly, where heavily armed groups are attacking civilians, we journalists are generally with the civilians because that's the way it is. And for instance, Sarajevo, we were in the city that was under siege. And so, being that there was no real formal front line and everything was a target, we were targeted as well.
According to the figures, more journalists have been killed or wounded covering the 3-year conflict in the former Yugoslavia than in any other war over the same period of time.
In the era of 24-hour news, of global satellite television, it's exceptionally difficult to do the kind of reporting we do and be seen in the field by the people we're reporting on. That's very, very, very difficult, and it's an extreme pressure for us, because it means we're not just telling the story, we're also pissing people off. And when it makes murderers angry, it's very dangerous as well.
In 1997, Christiane Amanpour files a story on the notorious Serbian paramilitary leader, Arkan. He is watching the broadcast.
To Western governments, Arkan is a murderous thug, the most prominent instrument of ethnic cleansing in Croatia and Bosnia.
You make me a war criminal a year ago when you said that I am a war criminal on CNN by Christiane Amanpour. We've been watching that on CNN all over Yugoslavia.
He then blamed me when the Hague International War Crimes Tribunal indicted him for war crimes, and as a result came after me. And I had to be spirited out of Yugoslavia at that time.
Since the birth of television news, more than 1,000 journalists have been killed or wounded in the battlefield. In 1973, Ed Bradley and his crew are in Cambodia, covering the war for CBS.
There was small arms fire around us. There was some mortar rounds coming in, but they seemed scattered and not that close to where I was. We were behind an armored personnel carrier, and I moved to the side and sat on the film bag. And I sat there because there was a tree there. And it was 100 and some degrees, and it was the only shade. And all of a sudden, I heard this terrific noise. In a split second, when that mortar round landed behind the armored personnel carrier where I had been standing and exploded, when it hit, it blew me in the air, and I hit the ground. It's a law of chance. If I had not moved to sit on the side, I would have been dead. The soldier who was standing there had a hole the size of my fist in his chest. And he didn't make it. I never thought I was in any danger. I mean, because the incoming fire I thought was an acceptable risk. It wasn't that close. Well, this one came that close. I thought it was an acceptable risk.
For a reporter, I think any reporter worthy of the name, when the bell goes off in your head, big story, you got to go. Fish got to swim, birds got to fly, fireman got to slide down the pole, policeman got to strap it on, and for a journalist, you got to go.
April 1980. With almost no details coming out of Afghanistan after the Soviet invasion, Dan Rather leads a small crew behind the lines to see the conflict firsthand.
When the Russians invaded Afghanistan, my eyes immediately went to the story and bells started going off. This could be a decisive moment in the Cold War. And I determined at that time, gotta go.
This is a training session for new recruits. Afghans who have settled their families in Pakistan and are now ready to go back home and fight.
We measured the risks and thought about them very carefully, and we decided to do it.
I'm standing on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, a border that is now closed to most everyone except refugees fleeing the Soviet invasion. These Afghan clothes I'm wearing were part of an operation to sneak me and a CBS News film crew into Afghanistan. The operation succeeded. So far as we can tell, we are the only full television crew to get inside Afghanistan in recent months. Do the Russians ever come up here? Do they come out of Jalalabad, try to catch him up here? The trek took 3 hours. A walk Yassini often takes 2 or 3 times a day. For an 18th century man fighting a 20th century war, these mountains are his only safe haven.
If we had known how dangerous it was going to be, we might not have gone. We did know it was going to be dangerous.
Resistance fighters have opened up with automatic weapons for the top of the ridge, toward the tanks below. Anti-tank round. Impossible to know where it hit or if it struck home. Artillery round struck very close. We figure that they're beginning to get our range. We're going to move off the ridge and scramble down below. That round hit the ridge just below us.
I thought, well, we may not get out of here.
Very close.
We may not get off this mountainside. And we almost didn't. I don't want anybody to misread this. This is part of what reporters do. This is, if you aspire to be a world-class journalist, then in some ways, on some days, danger is your business. But this is a story. This is a big story. This is a great story. This is a story worthy of us. And you got to believe. You have to believe within yourself that you are capable of getting in and getting out.
Coming up.
You have got to ask that hard question. Are you sorry you didn't burn the tapes?
The butcher Amin. You help and you talk about human rights? Are you prepared to say that you've never had an extramarital affair?
Stay tuned for more Breaking the News. You're watching Breaking the News.
Are you the least bit afraid of what might happen to you as a result of making these revelations?
Oh, yes. I probably am a dead man already.
I get the feeling there's something almost ghoulish in your desire to see the deed done.
Well, it could be. I can't argue with that.
Taken a couple of tough licks over the past 12 or so minutes, so I'll give you the first one as a freebie.
You said you'd kicked her ass.
Well, I've never said it in public.
Are you sorry you didn't burn the tapes?
Yes.
If you don't want to answer my question, I understand, but may I try another one then?
Plans to audit tax returns for political retaliation. Theft of psychiatric records. Spying by undercover agents. Bogus opinion polls. Plans to firebomb a building. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. All of this by the Law and Order administration of Richard Nixon. Is there a question in there somewhere?
There are times when you simply must ask the tough question. I asked Boris Yeltsin the first time I did an interview with him whether he drank too much. Do they expect you to ask the tough question? They are hoping you don't. And especially if it's a dictator, they are thinking you won't.
1977, Tehran. Barbara Walters interviews the Shah and Empress of Iran. The monarch is unaccustomed to such direct questions.
I'm quoting, Your Majesty. In a man's life, women count only if they are beautiful, graceful, and know how to stay feminine. You may be equal in the eyes of the law, but not in ability. You have never produced a Michelangelo or a Bach or even a great cook. You are schemers, you are evil, all of you. Oh, Your Majesty, you said all these things.
Not with the same words, no.
Well, the thought, you've never produced a Michelangelo, a Bach, or even a
This
great
I
cook.
have said.
So you don't feel that women are, in that sense, equal, that they have the same intelligence or ability?
Not so far. Maybe you will become in the future.
And the Empress sat there with tears in her eyes.
No.
I said, Your Majesty, say something.
What can I say? You know, it's, I don't think you really believe that. What the man has done to the world, really, have they achieved something that today the world is like perfect in every way?
I thought, oh boy, when they went upstairs to their bedroom later. But if you're going to do an interview, you really must ask all the questions. And they may not do another interview with you, and that's the chance you take.
I'd interviewed Yasser Arafat first in Egypt in the early to middle 70s. We saw each other a few times, and finally, we made arrangements to sit down in Beirut. And it was a very pleasant conversation back and forth, reporter to interviewee. And I had seen a little piece in the New York Times that said that the PLO, they were training the troops of Idi Amin. And he was talking about human rights and Jimmy Carter. Tell me something. We hear that there are Palestinians fighting alongside President Idi Amin in Uganda. Is that true?
For training mission. It is a training mission, and not more, to help him for training his army.
The butcher Amin. You help? And you talk about human rights? Is it Bugs Bunny who goes out over the cliff and suddenly looks down and realizes... You admit it?
I am helping the Ugandan people. Idi Amin is not occupying any other country.
You are proud of your relationship with Idi Amin?
Yes.
He had a press aide by the name of Mahmoud Labadi there, and Mahmoud said, Mike, you can't use that, of course, after the interview was over. I said, Mahmoud, you know perfectly well I'm going to use it, but now that you've asked us not to use it, that just ensures that it's going to be used. And so the producer, Barry Lando, and I got on a plane, got out of there quick, and Chairman Arafat didn't talk to me for 10 years.
I often sit across the table to interview people that I think are wrong, and sometimes people that I think have acted despicably, either in their life or in their public trust and responsibility. But I have to remember that I'm not there as judge. I'm there to get information. I may have to press them pretty hard, and I may have to ask the kind of questions that are called tough, in the sense that, wow, that's a heck of a question to ask. But the public judges. I don't judge.
Mr. Duke, thanks for coming in. We want to ask you about your views. We want to ask you about the things you've said and the things you've stood for.
David Duke is a racist, by his own admission. I once sat with David Duke live on the set in New York, and I was prepared. So we started in, and I cited to him racist statements that he had made.
And I quote, "Negroes are lower on the evolutionary scale than Caucasians."
I don't think that I said that, sir.
You wrote it. You didn't say it, I suppose.
Well, I don't think that I wrote that.
I cited the verbatim quotes. Well, I didn't say that.
Quote.
Mr. Donaldson, you're not really being fair. The issues...
Why am I not? These are your words,
Sir,
these are your publications, and here are some more of your words.
Look, here's a copy.
On November 17th, 1978.
You're not, let me give
Mr. Duke,
here's a copy of my publication.
I want to ask you about Jewish people.
Let me answer this thing
Let me ask
first.
you about Jewish
It's
people,
a copy.
and then you can.
My eyes were blazing, and my voice was emotional because this is a very emotional subject. And I cited him as exact words.
Jewish people have put the interest of race over the interest of the American people. Klan rally near Clearwater, Florida. At that time, you were the grand wizard
I've
of a
been
Klan.
quoted tens of thousands of times by tens of thousands of publications. Not in that way. I do think...
Did you say it?
Would you let me finish?
At the end of the interview, Mr. Duke said, well, he really got me. He really destroyed me. Or words to that effect. In fact, our switchboards lit up with people saying I wasn't fair to him. And the next day or two, I got masses of letters, which almost all began, I don't agree with David Duke, but you didn't let him answer the question. You weren't fair to him. You acted so rude to him. And I'm thinking, what if I'd had Hitler? I mean, I'm supposed to act, how do you do, sir? I mean, yet, I learned a lesson from that. The audience is looking for what the audience kind of thinks of as fairness, even if you're interviewing somebody the audience doesn't like and agree with.
There are times, usually, to borrow from Dickens, the worst of times, when people really do want to come on Nightline. When there is a huge scandal, when things are going very badly for a campaign. Those are the times when, in fact, he or she may decide that coming on Nightline is the right thing to do because there is the perception that they're not trying to duck the tough interview.
I commit sins. The Bible I read says we all commit sins. Mine happen to be pretty visible.
In 1988, Gary Hart's bid for president crumbles under allegations of sexual impropriety. Ted Koppel goes head-to-head with the senator on Nightline.
Did you have an affair with Ms. Rice?
Mr. Koppel, if the question is, in the 29 years of my marriage, including 2 public separations, have I been absolutely and totally faithful to my wife? I regret to say the answer is no. I've been forced to make a declaration here that I think is unprecedented in American political history, and I regret it. That question should never have been asked.
There's nothing new about scandals or sexual escapades dominating the news. Our role as journalists is not to ignore those stories simply because everybody cares about them. That's kind of self-destructive and stupid.
But I will say to you this, and I would say this to the National Press Board, never ask another candidate that question.
Are you prepared tonight to say that you've never had an extramarital affair?
I'm not prepared tonight to say that any married couple should ever discuss that with anyone but themselves.
January 1992. After a week of allegations regarding an adulterous affair, presidential candidate Bill Clinton and his wife agree to one interview with 60 Minutes correspondent Steve Croft.
They were doing this interview because they didn't want to talk to every reporter in the world, so they were saying, okay, we'll answer these questions once. And I felt like I had a responsibility to be as tough as I could and to push him as hard as I could.
People are sitting out there, voters, and they're saying, look, it's really pretty simple. If he's never had an extramarital affair, why doesn't he just say so?
You know, I have acknowledged wrongdoing. I have acknowledged causing pain in my marriage.
The response from Bill Clinton was almost a precise echo of what Gary Hart had said to me a number of years prior.
I have said things to you tonight and to the American people from the beginning that no American politician ever has.
I even thought when I saw that piece of video, he must have seen that interview with Gary Hart and thought that resonated pretty well back then. Why not try it again?
They handled it very skillfully. The biggest thing about that interview was that it was the first time anybody had ever really seen Hillary Clinton. And she was the star of the interview, not the president.
You know, I'm not sitting here as some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette. I'm sitting here because I love him, and I respect him, and I honor what he's been through and what we've been through together. And you know, if that's not enough for people, then heck, don't vote for him.
But one moment during the interview is not aired on that night's broadcast.
You know, an average person, Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Here we were in the middle of the interview, and it sounded like the bomb in the Frankfurt airport. I mean, there was just this huge explosion. The woman must not swear in front of other people, because she certainly would have done it then. We kind of asked them if they would mind staying and finishing the interview. They said, no, that's fine.
Is Bill Clinton damaged goods?
Shoot, no.
Coming up, Vietnam.
I did not know what side I'd come down on at all. I had no idea when I went out there. You keep your head down? Of course you're scared.
God damn it, we're in the middle of this, guy.
It was just absolute bedlam. People going every which way.
Breaking the News will continue. This is Breaking the News on CBS.
3 months ago, the 1st Air Cavalry Division shipped out from Charleston, South Carolina. They were destined for the high country of central Vietnam. Last week, some of them came home.
December 1960, Southeast Asia. The United States has dispatched 900 military advisors into the jungles of Vietnam, beginning what is to become the most controversial military operation in U.S. history. Without anyone actually realizing it, America is going to war, and television is going with it. Vietnam is the first war fought on the nightly news. Reporters are given nearly unlimited access, which often puts them too close for comfort. This is morally safer.
We seem to be pinned down by snipers. One, possibly two armed personnel carriers that preceded us in here have been blown. One behind us is a dead trooper in it.
You keep your head down. You keep talking if you're in the middle of reporting. The cameraman keeps rolling.
God damn it, we're in the middle of this, guy.
Of course you're scared. You don't see the dead people lying around you and hearing the impact of bullets and shrapnel in a tree behind you or something without being scared. You know, either it has your name on it or it doesn't, and I was a very lucky guy.
August 5th, 1965. Safer is in Vietnam following the 1st Battalion 9th Marines on a seemingly routine mission outside the village of Cam Nay.
This is what the war in Vietnam is all about. The old and the very young. The Marines have burned this old couple's cottage because fire was coming from here. And now when you walk into the village, you see no young people at all.
I was shocked by what I saw. It was scary in a certain way, seeing these robust American troops doing things that one does not expect them to do. When the Marines were about to burn down a hut, and Hatu Khan, cameraman I worked with, and I both heard voices coming from that area. And Khan, who's Vietnamese, walked out in front of this guy with a flamethrower and said, "Stop, don't, stop." And Khan went into the hut. Very brave of him to do. Who knows who could have been in there? And in fact, there was a family of about 8 people, including a couple of babies. They were scared beyond their wits. And he gently, very gently, talked them out. Then they burnt down the hut. When you've been in places where the object of the exercise is killing, pure and simple, you can't help but dwell a little bit from time to time. Certain things will evoke memories, just routine things, like the bap-bap-bap of a helicopter. Green plastic tarpaulins. I hate the smell of those things. I really hate it. I mean, it's noxious. the body bags. That's what they're made of.
The images from Vietnam that are airing nightly on television screens throughout America are unlike any that have been seen before.
American reporters, particularly television reporters, brought into American living rooms the very disturbing images of the suffering of war, of bloodshed and pain and death and dying.
By 1968, news reports from Vietnam have fractured America over the legitimacy of the war. And CBS News dispatches anchorman Walter Cronkite into the battle zone to form his own opinion.
Whatever price the communists paid for this offensive, the price to the Allied cause was high.
I did not know what side I'd come down on at all. I had no idea when I went out there.
The destruction here was almost total. There's scarcely an inhabitable building.
But having talked with the generals and others about what had happened, and knowing what we've been through over those last several years, I came back with the decision that it was best for us to say we'd done our best and let's get out.
For it seems now more certain than ever that the bloody experience of Vietnam is to end in a stalemate.
We heard that Lyndon Johnson heard this and said, well, if I lost Cronkite, I've lost Middle America. And the next week he announced he wasn't going to run for re-election.
August 1968, Chicago. 6 months after Walter Cronkite's broadcast, anti-war tensions infiltrate the Democratic National Convention and boil over from the bloody streets of the city into the arena itself. Dan Rather finds himself live on national television in the middle of hell breaking loose.
We had been prepared for Mayor Daley, President Johnson, and the powers in the Democratic Party wanting to keep as much control as possible inside the convention hall, to say nothing of outside the hall. But our outer reach estimates of what lengths they were going to go to were wrong. I'm on the floor, keeping my eyes and ears open for anything that looks like news. Here come some fairly thuggish-looking guys with a man who has a delegate badge on, and they were rushing him out.
If you intend to arrest me, don't push me, please. I know you won't, but don't push me. Take your hands off of me unless you plan to arrest me.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Well, Walter, as you can see...
I don't know what's going on, but these are security people apparently around Dan. And obviously getting roughed up.
I tried to talk to the man, and we got bodily pushed out of the way. This is the kind of thing that's been going on outside the hall. This is the first time we've had it happen inside the hall. I'm sorry to be out of breath, but somebody belted me in the stomach doing that.
It wasn't important what happened to me in and of itself, but it was a microcosm of the spirit of the convention.
It's all in a day's work.
Questioning authority, asking, demanding questions of authority. Much of that, I think, flowed out of the Vietnam War.
April 1975. After 18 years of fighting, the United States withdraws from Vietnam. The evacuation of Saigon is the last gasp of the war. Newsmen Bob Simon and Ed Bradley are there, sticking with the story to the bitter end.
I think the point about Saigon in '75 was the awareness that this was it. This was the story of our generation, and how privileged we were to be there covering it. Everyone who was there those last weeks wanted to be there at the end.
Good morning, Vietnam!
The last day, the surrealism reached its climax. And that somebody, and I don't know if anyone has ever identified who it was, that decided that the signal for the evacuation of Saigon would be Bing Crosby singing "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas."
Of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
And indeed, that morning, Saigon was getting shelled by the North Vietnamese. They started playing "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas." And David Green and I, the cameraman, just sort of left the office and got into the CBS vehicle we had. We called it a mini-moke. And we drove to the embassy. We parked about a block away.
And then David and I looked at each other and laughed because we were both at the same instant thinking the same thought. What do we do with the car keys? And we just left them in the car.
There was supposed to be a system, an orderly evacuation. And there was just absolute bedlam. People going every which way. Americans and Vietnamese who had worked for Americans trying to get on buses. We ended up going to the embassy and had to fight to get over the wall. And there were Marines on top of the wall with rifle butts knocking people back down.
Oh, there was a mob around the embassy of desperate people trying to get in. And the passport to get into the embassy were around us. Vietnamese were not getting in. Americans were.
I headed for the brother, so he would recognize me. I headed for a black Marine, so I didn't want anybody to think I was Vietnamese.
And eventually we got out on one of the large naval helicopters. It was the end of a world.
I do.
Coming up.
Is the United States selling arms for hostages? And we're listening for the word no.
As I got closer to the center of town, I thought, I'm out of my mind. Why did I come here?
We were dead on the money. We were right in the bullseye. Right place, right time. Lucky? You bet.
Breaking the news. We'll be right back. You're watching Breaking the News.
We may tell you all the time that our principal aim in life is to communicate and assist and inform, whatever the fancy words are, our audience. But if you see injustice and you can get people to do something about it, it's just a glorious feeling.
Do you think black people in this country should have the right to vote?
Not really.
I think in television news that we have an extraordinary amount of power because we decide what you need to know about the world in which you live. But with that comes responsibility.
All of the bureaucracy and apparatus at a White House is dedicated to making certain that reporters and the general public don't really know what's really going on.
I'm not going to tell falsehoods to the American people. And, I'll leave that to others.
I have never profited from public service.
The crisis, perhaps, is not so much constitutional as just what the American people are thinking the president's involvement in this is.
I don't live in a dictatorship. I live in a democracy. And the best friend of democracy is information, honest information. The best friend to our system is to shine light everywhere.
The most frightening, potentially frightening experience I ever had was going to Bosnia in the winter that the Serbs were bombarding Sarajevo. Weren't too many reporters in town, but those that were there I thought were very brave. And as I got closer to the center of town, I thought, I'm out of my mind. Why did I come here? It turned out, of course, to be one of the most invigorating, important things that I think I'd ever done.
February 1994, Sarajevo. ABC anchorman Peter Jennings is there with a camera crew when Serbian artillery reduces a local market to ashes and chaos.
We were several hundred yards away up the street doing some other filming when we heard the explosion. We rushed to the square. You could see within seconds that something had landed in this tiny little marketplace in between the buildings, which all had little corrugated roofs. And so when the mortar landed, it just turned all the corrugated iron into slivers of shrapnel. And it's the first or second worst human disaster I've ever seen, virtually in front of my eyes. This is a market that everybody thought was protected.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Trying to help people at home understand the reality and the horror of that without going overboard, without bleeding emotionally yourself, whereas everybody else was bleeding for real, is a very interesting challenge.
This will count as one of the worst attacks since this war began. And what makes Sarajevans so angry at this point is that high overhead all morning, American fighter planes have been circling. Sarajevans wish those fighter planes would drive the Serbs from the gun positions which dominate this town.
I think the fact that we were there at the time, I think had a lot to do with changing American policy. And there's nothing a reporter likes more than to have an effect on policy.
4 days after the shells struck the market, President Clinton announced the Western Alliance's ultimatum. that unless the Bosnian Serbs pull back their heavy weapons from around the city, NATO planes would attack them. And the Serbs began to move some of their guns.
The terrifying images broadcast from Sarajevo play a crucial role in ending the violence there. NBC correspondent John Hockenberry is in the Balkans, where his reports continue to prove the power of pictures.
Television is about pictures, and pictures drive our understanding of the world. That's one of its powers, and it's one of its great dangers. The universal emblem of an event is the picture. Whether you're looking at the Tiananmen Square tank and the guy standing in front of it, whether you're looking at the 12-year-old Palestinian who's shot in Gaza live on television, the Rodney King video, the Zapruder film, any of those things are universal, instantly understandable images of a complicated event. It says you can understand this if you just look at this picture. Well, you understand something, but maybe you don't understand everything. So while we scramble to come up with a fine print for those arresting images that change the world is waiting for the next image. What's that next image that's going to just electrify me? And it's a race we'll never catch up with, but it's still our responsibility to help bring context to picture.
I do. I think reporters learn to develop a sense of when things don't sound right, when things don't look right. It's not that we're so smart. But if you ask questions and you get normal answers, okay. But if you ask questions and people clam up, they won't talk. You get a funny sounding answer. You sense that something is happening.
November 1986. Sam Donaldson is on Air Force One with President Reagan and his staff when he hears a strange rumor claiming the U.S. is trading arms with Iran for American hostages held in Lebanon.
Silly story, but you have to ask. And so when the press secretary, Larry Speaks, came back, we asked him, Larry, what about this? Selling arms to Iran? We had an arms embargo on. Everyone knew that. Well, he said, I don't know. Let me go forward and find out. Hours later, he came back with a piece of paper on which Admiral Poindexter, who was then the National Security Advisor, had written some words, and Larry delivered them. As long as Iran continues to sponsor state terrorism, the U.S. arms embargo will remain in effect. Now, what was the question? The question was, is the United States selling arms to Iran in exchange for hostages? And we're listening for the word no. And we hear this bunch of words, and we look at each other in the press corps and say, uh-oh, yes, indeed. There's something going on here.
Do you solemnly swear?
In Washington, the cover-up is something that those of us who've been around some number of years immediately can sort of figure out. We don't know all of the angles, and we don't know all of the players, but it follows a classic pattern. I mean, first there is the total lie.
We did not, repeat, did not trade weapons or anything else for hostages.
Then there is the stonewall.
Did you make a mistake in sending arms to Tehran, sir?
No, and I'm not taking any more questions.
I must decline to answer that question at this time.
Then there are the evasive answers as circumstances began to drag the truth out.
I don't my recollection, but I can't be absolutely. I don't recall going into.
I am still waiting to find out the source of extra money.
Then there is the fallback positions of pointing at blame and offering up sacrificial lambs.
I want you to know lying does not come easy to me.
I mean, you just see it coming, and you just kind of know it's going to be there once the signs start. You learn that. It's not something reporters are born with.
There are few more satisfying moments as a reporter than to catch the wave, to catch the front end of a big building story.
Beijing, 1989. While CBS News is in China to cover a visit by Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, anchorman Dan Rather senses a much larger story brewing. He decides to follow his instincts and stick around.
We had an instinct. We had a sense something big could develop there. Now, I had no idea it would explode into something like Tiananmen Square. We got there just at the right time. What resulted in Tiananmen Square was just beginning to really build.
At its height, the movement was so reasonable, so peaceful, and so widely supported. Their dreams were of something beyond communism. Freedom, democracy, human rights.
One of our competitors announced, rather's gone the wrong way, which is not unusual. The wrong way, rather, is sometimes accurate. But this time it wasn't. This time, at least this time, we were dead on the money. We were right in the bullseye.
Scenes of destruction and defiance in the streets of Beijing as enraged Chinese take on an army divided against itself.
The Chinese government is furious at the pictures being seen around the globe, and what starts out as a peaceful protest quickly turns violent. Government troops clamp down on student protesters and move to ban all broadcasts of the violence.
The night they shut us down, we tried to talk them out of it. We saw we couldn't talk them out of it. Then we fought the clock, we fought for time. And then we had a lot of material we wanted to feed before they shut us down.
I do protest in the most respectful manner.
In fact, we said, well, if they're going to shut us down, they have to be seen shutting us down. They have to pull the plug. We're never pull the plug on ourselves.
These are the last pictures we'll be showing to you through our own facilities, and if we're able to show any more at all, I know not when. This is Dan Rather, CBS News, Beijing.
Coming up.
President Sadat calls you, Imam, a lunatic.
The translator looked at me as though I was a lunatic.
I should know better about this matter, Mr. Coppel, than you.
With anybody else, I would have resented it. With him, I actually rather enjoyed it.
Breaking the news. We'll be right back. You're watching Breaking the News.
Question. How much do you make? What's your salary? Hard question.
You know what most people are interested in? Mm-hmm. Your wife's 3,000 pairs of shoes.
In our country, we read that you are mad. You know that those things have been printed.
These men are enormously complex. They can be charming. They are brilliant, sometimes uneducated, but brilliant. And they're tyrants. And the combination is what is fascinating and scary.
June 1977. Barbara Walters flies to Cuba to interview Fidel Castro. It is a meeting full of surprises.
He picked me up at the hotel. I mean, there were Canadian tourists who couldn't believe it. Here is this man in his Jeep. You'd drive up the streets and you'd see these little clump of kids, Fidel, Fidel. He then took us through the mountains. I was sitting next to him, and there was a lot of flooding. I remember his gun was on the floor, and I had to pick it up. He asked me to pick it up so that it wouldn't get wet. It was an extraordinary time. We did an interview that went on until 2 in the morning. Castro said it was the longest and most difficult interview he had ever done. It was fairly difficult for me, too, because in those days he was smoking cigars and he blew smoke in my face from 6 p.m. until 2 in the morning.
Relations, trade relations. Would you ever shave off that beard?
¿A cambio de qué?
As an exchange for what? The ceasing of the blockade, or?
If we stop the blockade, you'll shave off the beard.
That is an individual thing. Don't forget the human rights.
We also realized that as charming as he was being, as charismatic, he was also a man who had deprived his people of liberty, even as we visited the hospitals and the schools where he had made such a difference. And although you can laugh and have some relaxed moments, you always have to remember that you cannot be emotionally or intellectually compromised.
November 1979. 66 Americans are taken hostage inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Just days after the crisis begins, Mike Wallace flies to Iran to interview the mysterious Ayatollah Khomeini with one stipulation. All questions must be agreed upon in advance.
Now we're ready. In walks Khomeini. Sir, rushed past me, didn't look at me, sat down. He was ready. And I began to ask questions about the hostages, obviously. They made it apparent that the hostages were not going to go anyplace soon. Finally, I had asked some of the questions that had already been okayed, and I figured, what are they going to do if I ask a question that is not okayed ahead of time? So I said, you know something?
President Sadat of Egypt, a devoutly religious man, a Muslim, says that what you are doing now is, quote, a disgrace to Islam. And he calls you, Imam, forgive me, his words, not mine, a lunatic.
The translator looked at me as though I was a lunatic if I thought that he, the translator, was going to translate for Khomeini.
That's what I heard President Sadat say on American television.
Khomeini heard the question, and for the first time looked at me and rather smiled, as much as to say,
Sadat, I demand that Egyptian people try to overthrow him just as we did with the Shah.
He predicted an unhappy future for Sadat, and of course, it wasn't many months later that Sadat was assassinated.
When people ask me who is the most unforgettable interview, I will say Anwar Sadat, because I thought he had such courage, and I thought that what he did affects the world even today.
November 1977. After 30 years of fighting between Israel and Egypt, Barbara Walters gets word from her boss at ABC News that Egyptian leader Anwar Sadat is flying to Israel.
New Knowledge called and said Walter Cronkite and John Chancellor are in Egypt. They're going to be on President Sadat's plane. You get yourself on that plane.
Eager to scoop her rivals from the other networks, Walters manages to talk her way onto Sadat's plane.
On the plane, I passed a note to Anwar Sadat's chief of staff saying, would President Sadat do an interview with me? And I left two little boxes, yes, no, alone, or with Prime Minister Begin, because I didn't want Walter and John to see it. When I got off, I got handed a note that said yes, alone. And it was Menachem Begin later who said to Anwar Sadat, will you do the interview together? I said, Mr. Prime Minister, you're the best agent I ever had. There might be some concession, there might be a somewhat different position down the road.
You are always like this.
I tried to... this is what people are going to be asking of you.
Politics can't be conducted like this.
I have to keep trying. It's very seductive to think that you can conduct the negotiations that the Secretary of State cannot. We are not necessarily negotiators, although in the very nature of the business, there is some time when you find yourself strangely enough negotiating.
Very delicate problem.
We shall negotiate about
it. Would you like to continue your negotiations?
No, you have started it.
Because I, the reporter, am able to ask questions and get answers that very often a diplomat can't, because they can't get the two men together.
I'm planning to invite him to Sinai.
Thank you, sir. To who?
Sinai.
Well, I invite you. There will always be reciprocity between us.
The fact that they could, these enemies, sit together and talk, I did have the feeling that it was historic, because it eventually, that whole period led to peace between Israel and Egypt. It is an interview that has great meaning to me.
Some heads of state are more impressive than others. One of the things you come to realize over a long career in this business is that people who are the focus of attention one day, who have all power at their disposal one day, are rather boring individuals on the day after they leave office. There are some men who transcend that, and some women who transcend that. One of the very few who did, and who does to this day, is Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela continues to fill me with awe. When I sit next to him or across from him, I realize I'm in the presence of greatness. Why are you so insistent upon maintaining sanctions at a time when it can be argued that the South African government has made more concessions, your release being only one of them, than it has ever made in the past 40 years?
I should know better about this matter, Mr. Coppel, than you.
No doubt.
We were in front of a live audience, and it was a live audience in Harlem. And you can imagine, if I am in awe of Nelson Mandela, then a crowd of mostly African-American citizens looked upon him with even greater reverence. And the idea that he was being pressed hard by this sort of insignificant white reporter and then challenged me.
I have refused to be drawn into the differences that exist between various communities inside the USA. Why are you so keen that I should involve myself in the internal affairs of Cuba and Libya?
No.
I expect you to be consistent.
I thought he still had more to say, and so I let the silence go on.
I don't know if I have paralyzed you.
No.
And the crowd loved it. They just sort of exploded in laughter. With anybody else, I would have resented it. With him, I actually rather enjoyed it.
I'm afraid, Mr. Mandela, that paralysis does not set in quite that easily in my case. The point...
Coming up, trapped in Baghdad.
They kept on threatening death, firing squads, and stuff like that.
I had made my peace with the fact that I could be dead by morning.
Stay tuned for more Breaking the News. Breaking the News.
We're going to Bernard Shaw in Baghdad.
This feels like we're in the center of hell.
4 of our colleagues are missing. It appears the missing CBS newsmen are in the hands of the Iraqis.
January 16th, 1991. The Allied forces unleash a massive bombing campaign on Iraq, and the Gulf War begins. CNN's Bernard Shaw is in Baghdad to interview Saddam Hussein, but instead, he's trapped inside his hotel at Ground Zero.
Something is happening outside. We're seeing bright flashes going off all over the sky.
In the split second it took for Atlanta to come to us live, I thought of my mother. She used to warn us about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, clearly, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. So I said, Bernie, just focus on your job. Focus on what you do best. And if you don't make it, if you end up going home air freight, so be it.
We here at Ground Zero in Baghdad are going to be subjected to these repeated bombing attacks until the Allied forces feel that they have annihilated the targets on the ground.
Hotel security, as well as some military people, tried to flush us out, and we stayed because we knew the world was listening for whatever information we could impart.
The best reporting that I've seen on what transpired in Baghdad was on CNN.
It's broken out on either side of us here at the hotel, and I'm just going to be quiet and let you listen.
I had made my peace with the fact that I could be dead by morning.
But Baghdad is the only place the war is being seen firsthand, and reporters are becoming increasingly frustrated with the way the media is being managed.
Some of the most draconian restrictions ever in a free country were imposed on journalists in the Gulf.
Come on, please. Is there something unclassified that you can show me? Probably not.
What I would ask you not to do is to portray anything that may be negative.
This was restrictions for PR purposes, for image.
Well, it looked like Top Gun.
Baghdad was lit up like a Christmas tree. The pictures that the Bush administration wanted broadcast were our ace pilots taking off from carriers, and then what's become famous, this video shot from the airplane showing bomb honing in on its target. Little smoke, and then the pilot landing on the carrier again, thumbs up, he got his target. Pictures of a war that was being won, and it was being won without any human suffering.
Frustrated at the lack of access, Bob Simon determines to see the war for himself.
We decided to go up to the border, have a look.
وين كويت؟ كويت تصوير؟
كويت هذا في الطريق.
سمول
We were already probably 300 meters into Kuwait, something like that, when we saw a Jeep heading towards us through the sands. And the gentlemen inside the Jeep were Iraqis in uniform. We'd shot all this wonderful stuff earlier on, and I was thinking, damn it, I've got to get back. I've got a story to put on the air. We were shoved out of the Jeep, and they started, beating us up. That really surprised me. Whenever we asked them if they could loosen up their cuffs a bit, they'd, beat us up a bit more. So you learn not to ask. These were not our friends.
4 of our colleagues from CBS, led by correspondent Bob Simon, are missing after their car was found abandoned between the Saudi Arabian border and occupied Kuwait.
Our friends back in Saudi Arabia, they were convinced we were dead because they guessed correctly that the Iraqis would take us up to Baghdad. And they knew how badly that road was getting bombed. And in fact, bombs were falling all around us. We were taken out. We were in some sort of prison. They kept on threatening death, firing squads, and stuff like that. One of the worst things about being in captivity was the fact that I was missing the story. To be in this dark cell and hearing the story all around me, because I was in Baghdad and there were bombs all the time. That drove me crazy as much as anything. I was in trouble because I am an American Jew who is based in Israel. Those are not good words in Iraq during a war. I lied. I told them I was an American Protestant who lived in New York. But I also knew the fact of our capture was bound to be getting some publicity.
4 missing CBS newsmen.
And indeed, I was interrogated one day when the interrogator said to me, "Hey, the game's up, we know who you are. And your trial begins whenever." So, that's it. In fact, it was just sort of, I was almost fatalistic about it. I went up to my cell and like that, had lunch. And that night we were bombed. The prison was bombed by the American Air Force. It, I think, inconvenienced them. Whether they still intended to put me on trial or not, it got delayed. And this Iraqi guard came and said, the president has decided you be free, or something to that effect. This is also probably what they'd tell us if they were going to take us out to shoot us. They weren't going to say the president has decided that you're going to be shot tonight. That's not what executioners do. But in fact, we were free.
It's been a long and a difficult 40 days and 40 nights. But the point is that we've aged a little, but we're fine. This is a story that could have ended another way, but it's had a happy ending.
When I returned from the Middle East, I was very content just to spend time with my family, but CNN wanted me to be on Larry King Live for obvious reasons.
Were you scared?
Yes.
Did you think one of them was going to hit you?
I thought that was the possibility, and if there had been one indiscriminately dropped bomb or one misdirected bomb, if a bomb had not detonated and skithered on a roof or something like that, if the hotel had been hit, that would have been it.
But is there irony? Did you think an American bomb is going to get me?
I wasn't thinking that extensively. Anything can go on in war. Mistakes are made and accidents happen.
You've covered war?
Yeah. In a war, one moment you're alive and the next you're dead. It's that simple. To be away from that war zone within 3 days, having to sit calmly in a comfortable studio in Washington and talk about that to me was unseemly. I had no time to grieve. I'm uptight, to be quite frank about it. I've got a very nervous stomach, and you probably hear my voice trembling. And you go through periods of depression after a story like the Gulf War, and it takes its toll. And that's why the alcoholism rate is so high in journalism. You are safely observing life and death and human carnage. How can you not be affected by it? After I hugged my wife and my children, I realized the gravity, and I thought about the women and men on both sides in this confrontation who are a long way from home and who are staring death in the face.
Coming up.
I knew that if somebody didn't help them, that some of them would probably drown.
The most painful thing that we do is to see death
we all felt that America had gone to another level just as it had with the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Breaking the news. We'll be right back. This is Breaking the News on CBS.
People always ask me how I deal emotionally with what I've seen over the last 10 years. And I say to them that it's hard, that I cry, that it's exceptionally painful, but I can't fall apart because I strongly believe in telling these stories.
I have tried very hard throughout my career never to let people know at a given moment what I'm feeling. And yet you feel all those things at exactly the same moment that everybody else does. And I've lost it like everybody else on a couple of occasions.
The most painful, the most painful thing that we do is to see death, is to see children suffer. It's the hardest thing. I mean, you can be out there and be sick to your stomach.
You can't help but become emotionally involved in a story. The difference is not becoming emotionally involved in your reporting of that story.
Everyone here has the same reaction to this act of madness. How could they? And then a pause and this, especially the children. How could they do that to the children? When it's all over, more than 30 kids could be dead. At that moment, at least, we all felt that this was beyond just a dry recitation of facts, that America had gone to another level just as it had with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I felt, as we were on the air that day and in the days that I was in Oklahoma City, that I had to try to convey some of that.
Each person who's on the air has to handle his or her own emotions in their own way. But there are those times, and I have no apology for it, when despite my best efforts to professionally not let my emotions show, that they break through.
Look into the eyes of a coward and tell him that you have courage. Tell him he is not a patriot. He is a traitor, and he deserves to die. End of quotation. Today in Denver, the jury in effect said that to Tim McVeigh.
There are some really great journalists in this world who do it for more than just celebrity or fame or money, who do it because they, you know, it's a sense of a mission. It's a sense of, they believe in the nobility of their profession.
This is the east coast of Malaysia. Final destination, thousands of refugees fleeing Vietnam. Many don't make it this far. They're attacked by pirates, drown, or starve to death. Only a few fishermen helped the boat people ashore. We joined in.
It's a rare thing for a reporter to be that physically involved, walking into the water and helping to bring people to shore. But that's because it's a rare thing for a reporter to be in a position when people are going to drown. I never thought, oh, how is this going to look? Or how does this affect my position in this story, my job as a journalist? I saw people who had been on a boat. I had no idea how long they'd been on that boat, but I figured they'd been out there a long time. I knew that if somebody didn't help them, that some of them would probably drown. It just so happened that I was there covering the story, and we used the footage of that. But I think that because I went forward and because we were shooting it, that there were other people who also went in to help them, who perhaps might not have helped them. Is that becoming emotionally involved? If it is, I'll take the weight.
People often say, do you want to do anything to change the situation? It's the old story, like, you know, how can the photographer take the picture without helping the person there? And it's so much more complicated when you're actually there. The people in a situation like that understand what your role is, and in most cases, they want you to get a story to tell the outside world. They don't want the change in your pockets or the food in your bag. They want you to do your job. But the sad part of that is that you can see in their faces the fact that they know that you're just going to be pulled out of there, that in a sense all of us journalists are attached to the outside world by strings, and that they know the moment will come when we'll be pulled out and whisked back to our safe homes, and that is the one thing that they don't have and can never have.
In reporting war, it is always the faces that stay with me, more powerful than the pictures and sounds of weapons. In the Balkans, when the fires from bombs and missiles are extinguished, these faces will remain.
I would say my attitude towards war has always been one of sadness, just because there's a knowledge that wherever you go, whatever the language is, whatever the circumstances, you're going to see a complete breakdown, just an absolute wiping away of everything that we take for granted about civilized society. No food where you're going to be able to find it. The idea of shelter gone, because anything can be blown up, anything can be destroyed. The idea of authority that you have faith in, you know, the cop on the beat, all that blown away. You fear everyone, you fear everything that moves. And that is just a terrifying situation. I would say what I keep in my mind is the idea they're not shooting at me. I know they're not shooting at me, and that's actually also one of the horrible things. People are saying, excuse me, to get around you so that they can kill the guy in back of you. It's like you're the referee. You may, by mistake, step between them and feel the wind of a punch, but mostly you feel that kind of animal sense of them wanting to get at each other's throat. It's the story that you're covering, but it is chilling to experience.
I remember specifically being just outside Srebrenica at a time when the Serbs were shelling Srebrenica. And we were expecting UN trucks to bring out the wounded. My colleagues and I were waiting on the other side of the line to get the pictures, to tell the story, because we couldn't get into Srebrenica. It was encircled and besieged. And we expected to see men and maybe some women. And in front of us, they raised the tarpaulin of this truck. And it was full of kids. And I remember all of us, we just went, oh! I mean, it was just unbelievable. And I remember these kids moaning, and I'll never forget that.
The most amount of suffering that the people in the front of the camera happen to be enduring, the better it is for your TV report. You're almost like a vulture flapping around the world looking for people suffering. The important thing, I think, is to not become cynical.
February 1986, the Philippines. NBC reporter John Alpert sets out to document life under the U.S.-backed dictator Ferdinand Marcos.
The vast majority of Filipinos were living in unbelievable poverty. And we were trying to figure out a way somehow to communicate what life was like for an average Filipino under this guy's government. And we stumbled upon a place called Smoky Mountain.
What's this, a big dump? You can see the garbage smoking coming from the methane gas it produces.
It had 7,000 people living on top of the garbage. Well, I remember walking around this and sinking almost up to here in this disgusting, oozy slime. But when the garbage trucks came in, the people would battle to see who was going to be the first to try and hunt for some type of little piece of treasure. They would make 50 cents a day, 75 cents a day for this. And in the middle of all this stink and disgusting squalor, we found a beautiful young woman named Maria.
What's your name?
Maria.
Maria?
Yeah.
How old are you?
18 years old.
18?
Yeah.
Spoke English. I mean, this is always a reporter's dream, to find somebody in the middle of a horrible tragedy who could speak English. And she was pregnant. And she was desperately looking through this garbage for pieces of fruit and other things that she would consider healthy, so that she might have a strong baby, and that the baby might grow up and have a better chance in life than she had, because her life was just miserable.
No more chicken, but no more money.
No money?
Yeah.
We showed this tape on the Today Show, and the audience went crazy. They sent in so much money that they were able to build a housing complex for people who were living in the dump and move Maria out into nice new apartments. But it also helped educate the people in the United States as to what the lives of Filipinos were like. And I think was part of the changing of public opinion in the United States. And about a month later, we withdrew our support of Marcos, and pretty soon he was booted out of the country.
Coming up.
On the moon landing, I was almost speechless for the first time in my life. What?
Lead for mankind.
I decided if we could do that, we could do anything.
Breaking the News will continue. You're watching Breaking the News.
When I first came to television, somehow everybody that worked in the news divisions were considered a little left, a little pink, a little too liberal. We had that aura about us. Along came space.
Liftoff. It looks good.
Now we had a chance to show them, hey, we're good Americans. We're team players.
May 25th, 1961. President Kennedy announces his intention to place a man on the moon by the end of the decade. The country's most famous reporter embraces the program, taking television news to an all-time high.
Walter Cronkite became the end-all and be-all of space coverage.
Today, America took the gamble, and America won. Reaching for the stars, spending more time nearer them than has any American. I don't know any words for this except the trite ones. Tension is mounting here at Cape Canaveral.
Capcom, we're go for landing.
Okay, step 6%, plenty fast. Contact. Stop.
On the moon landing, I'd had just as long as the space program had to prepare for that landing. And Wally Schirra, the former astronaut who was my technical sidekick, kept asking me all morning, well, what are you going to say when they land? I said, well, I never plan these things, but I'll have plenty to say. Turned out I was almost speechless for the first time in my life. What?
Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute.
And what did I say? Wow. Wow, golly, wow.
Wally, say something. I'm speechless.
I'm just trying to hold on to my breath.
Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I think I was as impressed with the television coverage as I was with the feat of getting a man on the moon.
Boy, look at those pictures. Wow.
I guess sometimes I'm a pessimist, but I really hadn't expected we were going to get that clear a picture from the moon. We were hoping we would. The technicians told us we were going to, but I was doubtful. And there it was, this great picture.
Look at that.
I think it was the first time we really knew of the extreme capabilities of television, that we could get a picture back from the moon, for heaven's sakes. I decided if we could do that, we could do anything. And that's the way it is. This is Walter Cronkite. Good night.